2021 has been a weird year for me. Not only did I have the opportunity to, I also actively seeked out things that I wouldn't have done earlier. And that also includes purchasing smartphones from companies that I genuinely wouldn't have thought I would. And this definitely includes the Vivo X60 Pro. And if you had asked me in 2020, would I have daily driven a Vivo phone for 6 months? I would have probably laughed it off because this phone genuinely changed the impression of the brand for me. Now, another brand, similarly, from which I've never used a phone before, is Xiaomi. When I switched from the Vivo to the Mi as my daily driver, it was really interesting, and that is why I'm making this video. Since I'm a first-time Xiaomi user, and also since I just switched from the Vivo to the Xiaomi, I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons to the Vivo and even to my earlier phone, the Galaxy S10. So if you want to have a lot more context, I'd recommend you watch the Vivo X60 Pro review I made, which will be linked up here. If it doesn't appear there right now, it's because YouTube did not like the aspect ratio I put this video in, so in that case, check the description for the link. So first, let's look at build quality. Now, when I was switching from the Vivo, one of the first things I was very skeptical about is the build quality, because if you hadn't realized, this phone costs twice as much as this, and they're very similar on many levels. So I was expecting a lot of compromises here and there to reduce the cost. But I was really surprised when I held this phone in my hand and I genuinely was not able to tell the difference between the Vivo and the Mi. I'm not saying that both these phones are actually the same dimensions. I'm saying both of them feel the same way in your hands. Both are glass sandwich phones with steel bands on the side, and they feel absolutely premium. Now, in the Vivo review, I had called the Vivo X60 Pro a very strong phone. It is true, the phone is very strong, but it does not feel durable, which means that you are more likely to be worrying about the phone whenever you use it. Whereas with the Mi, it is not the case. Not only does this phone feel strong, it also feels durable. And that means that I'm worrying less about breaking the device that I'm using. And that means that the phone actually melts into my hand whenever I'm using it. So I pay less attention to the fact that I'm using the phone. So it becomes a natural extension of my hand. And that is the highest praise a phone can get, at least according to me. The satin white finish that I have here looks absolutely beautiful. Now, this satin finish also means that the phone is not a fingerprint magnet. The experience of holding and using this phone does not reflect the price of the device. It is actually really premium. Now, this phone also has really good stereo speakers, which make the media consumption experience a whole lot better. In general, the media consumption experience on this phone is really cool. So now that we've spoken about the build, let's now talk about the thing that you interact the most with, the screen. And well, to sum it up, it is really good. Just like the X60 Pro, this is a 6.7-inch, 120Hz 1080p AMOLED panel, and it looks gorgeous, as all AMOLEDs are. Now, in the X60 Pro review, I had remarked that this screen is really color accurate, comparing it with my MacBook Pro's screen. That is not the case with the Mi. It is very more stylized. It accentuates certain hues more than others, so it ends up looking pleasing, but it is not the most color accurate panel. So if you're doing any color sensitive work like editing photos on your smartphone, be sure to actually tune the display before you do it, or your photos would look wildly different on different screens. Now, that being said, Miui makes it so that it is very easy to tune the display, and I spent 15 minutes trying to get it right, and now all three of the Mi 11X, the Vivo X60 Pro, and my MacBook literally have the same color response. So it is not a big issue. I just wanted to let you know that. Now, this screen is not all good. There are a few issues. The touch sensitivity on this screen is really poor, and by that I mean it cannot reject touches as well. So if you were to lock the phone using the power button, sometimes what would happen is it would actually register your fingerprint and unlock the device. So you would think that you lock the phone and you put it in your pocket, whereas it is unlocked, and because the phone cannot reject touches very well, it'll be shuffling around inside your pocket and it would generate ghost touches. And I have called emergency services or the last dial person so many times, to the point where I am really nervous about putting this in my pocket because I do not know who I'm going to call next. Now, this is happening because I have the dialer on the home screen. Should probably get rid of that, but hey, if I cannot have the dialer on the home screen on a phone, what's the point? So I really wish they would fix this in a software update if it is fixable that way. I don't think so. This phone has received multiple updates, but it has not gotten any better, and almost every YouTube video I saw about this mentioned this issue. Now, coming to the performance. Now, this phone is powered by the Snapdragon 870 SoC, and the variant that I have has 8GB of RAM and 120GB of internal storage. Now this phone also has a memory extension feature where it uses some internal storage to page to as if it's RAM, and it has 3 gigabytes of it. But unlike the Vivo, this only engages the memory extension only when you saturate the 8 gigabytes of RAM, and in my 3 months of usage I have never saturated 8 gigabytes, so for all intents and purposes this is an 8 gigabyte RAM phone, and it is damn fast at that. Not only is it running a much heavier skin of Android, it also has potentially inferior cooling hardware, but it still manages to soak out all of the performance from the Snapdragon 870 processor. Now when I initially got this phone, I ran a lot of benchmarks on both this and the Vivo because I was pretty sure that to offer the same specifications on a device that was half the price with having a very good screen and very good build, you had to skimp somewhere, and I was expecting that compromise to be where the cooling hardware was, and the synthetic benchmark results confirmed my suspicions. On every run back to back, the Vivo scored a lot more points than the Mi, and also it maintained its score over multiple runs a lot better than the Xiaomi. The Xiaomi, while the first few runs were respectable, it drooped very low very quick to the point where it was increasingly comparable to the Galaxy S10, which is a 3-year-old device at this point. But in my day-to-day usage, I have never felt this phone be sluggish in any sort of way. It is running a very heavy skin of Android with a lot of fancy graphic effects for every turn of the homepage. And it's really cool. It does not stutter, it does not lag, even at 120Hz, it is buttery smooth all day long. Now, in the X60 Pro review, I had made comparisons between the X60 and the S10 by using a Dolphin emulator, a GameCube emulator, and I ran Need for Speed Most Wanted on it, and I showed you how the Vivo was a whole lot better at emulating GameCube games than the S10. Now, I did not have the chance to do that on the Mi, but I did get a chance to play with a PS2 emulator running Need for Speed Most Wanted, and let me tell you, PS2 emulators are a lot more resource intensive than GameCube emulators, and I was able to play that PS2 game on native resolution, that is 640 by 480, native PS2 resolution, and I got 100% emulation speed, which is really good. So you can technically play PS2 games on your phone, and it did not heat up, it did not slow down, it was really good. So this phone performs well in real life situations. It doesn't perform on par with the other 870 power devices in synthetic benchmarks, which I'm really not sure why this is happening. So now you're probably like, you're telling me this phone has the same performance as the Vivo, has very similar display, is built very much the same, and costs half the money? Then what's the point? What's the deal? What is wrong with this phone? Why isn't this flying off of store shelves? Well, with the Vivo, I had to praise the cameras so much. I genuinely enjoy shooting photos on this. So much so that when I was daily driving this, I would take a photo, edit it very slightly, and post it to my Instagram as a story every day for almost 3 months. Like, this was so good. It genuinely made me want to take photos. If you are following me on Instagram, which I recommend you do, you would notice that I have been a lot less active on there recently. And it's because I have switched to the Mi 11X, and the cameras on this phone are terrible. I'm not saying terrible compared to the Vivo, I'm just saying it's terrible. Now, before I had the Mi, before I had the Vivo, before I had the S10, I was daily driving a Nokia 5. The photos that this phone takes genuinely reminds me of the Nokia 5's photos. Now, the Google camera port does help in making the photos a bit better. I genuinely lost interest for shooting photos on my smartphone because of the Mi 11X. Now, the camera module plays a lot of tricks on you. Now, because you think there are two main bigger sensors, that one of them is the main camera and the other is the ultra-wide, you'd be wrong, because the second one is actually the macro camera, and that actually kind of speaks to how the macro photos on this phone look really good. Color response, the highlight roll-off, and the way the photos look are very DSLR-like from the macro camera. But again, it's 5 megapixels, it's not the most detailed, so you'd be able to tell that this was shot on a phone. And the small tiny sensor in the middle is actually the wide-angle camera. The best way I can put it is, it looks like those skate videos, like those 1990s fisheye lens videos, but even worse. It's just really bad. I would not recommend getting this phone if you're anything like a photographer. It would genuinely make you lose interest in shooting photos on your smartphone. So we've spoken about the cameras, the build, the performance. What about the software and battery life? Now, with the Vivo, I had a lot of uncertainty because FunTouch OS had recently gone through a lot of changes, and I wasn't sure if it would receive updates quickly or it would be very stable. And well, if you wanted an update, It is very stable. It has the Android 12 update now, and it's as smooth as ever. This is my first Xiaomi device. And with that, this is my first experience of Miui. Miui has a lot of cool tiny animations and blur effects applied on the home screen and on the settings page and just generally throughout the UI, which make it feel a lot more premium than it actually is. Now, this is a Xiaomi phone, meaning this does not have ads if you set it up properly. The Redmi phones, I think, have a lot more ads. So I have had an ad-free experience and it has been amazing. I really like Miui. I really like all the tiny app icon animations. I really like how they implemented gesture navigation. I really like how the notification shade is split up into 2 pages, and it's just really cool. Now, I don't like the fact how the gesture navigation would not work if you use a third-party launcher, and that's why I had to give up on home screen customization and just generally use how it is supposed to be used. I would really enjoy it if with the MIUI 13 update, they would allow us to use the gesture navigation outside of the system launcher. It would be really helpful, but I genuinely like MIUI. I like all its tiny animations, its fun touches. See what I did there? It's really cool. It is not as bad as people made it out to be, but it is not for everybody because it makes a lot of simple settings much harder to find. As this is a Xiaomi device, and with that comes the custom ROM promise, I am interested in trying out custom ROMs and seeing how custom ROM videos perform on YouTube. I might as well try it out in the future. So I've spoken about almost everything except the battery life because that is actually the one that blew me away the most. The battery life on this phone is genuinely amazing. Now the phone is a lot more thicker than the Vivo, and I would totally forgive it for that because it lasts that much longer. The Vivo was a 1.5 day phone. It would last me an entire day, and the next day I'd have to charge it somewhere in the middle. But with the Mi, it is a 2-day phone for me, at least with the way I use it. The included charger also charges the phone very fast. I believe it is 33 watts, and the phone does not heat up that much, but it charges very quickly. So that is my review of the Mi 11X. A very cool phone if you don't look at the cameras. Thank you so much for such an amazing year. 2021 has been so much better than I imagined it to be. I've been able to interact, I've been able to collaborate, I've been able to do so much more with a lot of people that I genuinely did not think I would be able to. It is honestly really amazing where this all ended up, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys in a short while. Thank you.